Hello, friends. I'm Ayeshe from Bodhicitta Dakini Monastery, and this is my friend Anagarika Karuna, or otherwise known as Erin. So, I just thought it would be interesting to have a chat about temporary ordination because there is a whole bunch of people that have come to me and said, most monasteries have the cutoff age of 50, or, I have a family member to care for. I have a pet, I have health issues. There's a whole bunch of reasons why I can't ordain. Monasteries won't accept me. And, um, as a monastery, it doesn't feel good to have to turn someone away because of they have debt or they have some issue. But, monasteries are also places with very finite resources. And, they're maybe not in a position to care for someone who has serious health issues or, have the money for that. And if everybody in the monastery is over a certain age, the monastery isn't viable in terms of we have to run the monastery, we have to chop wood, we have to mow the lawns, we have to deal with lay people. So anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But a good option for people who are in a position where they perhaps do have some kind of passive income, or they just want to temporarily do it once a year when they have holidays, is to be an Anagarika, which is an 8-precept one who has entered the homeless life. So there is also some kind of debate around what the definition of one who has entered the homeless life. Like if you have a big mansion, are you one who has entered the homeless life versus if you live in a tiny car or if you live in a van. And another option for those who maybe don't want to shave their head is to take the 8 precepts. This is basically from the Theravada tradition. You can take the 8 precepts, which is don't kill, don't steal, don't commit, don't be celibate, no sexual activity, no killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, no harsh speech or false speech, no taking alcohol, drugs, or intoxicants, no eating after noon. There are some allowables after noon, like dark chocolate, boiled lollies. In some traditions they allow a little bit of cheese, dark chocolate, and honey and ghee, and tea and coffee is okay. And sometimes some monasteries don't allow milk or soy milk and others do. But there's just, you're not meant to like pig out. Or a little bit of miso soup. You're not meant to have a large portion. You're just meant to have a very small portion. And if you're someone who has diabetes or, glucose problems, then you can just have like a little bit of porridge or something that is very simple and not delicious, because it's all about simplicity and reducing your needs and consuming less, but just so that you have enough food to sustain you and keep you in good health. And the other precept is to not watch entertainments, to wear makeup, you have to remember these vows are 2,600 years old, to not engage in entertainment, distraction basically. And that would mean, being very mindful about your internet consumption, what you read, what you watch. And it's okay to watch things that are like a documentary of a spiritual nature or, wholesome, but to not spend your time in distraction. And then the other precept is to not wear adornments, jewelry, perfume, and also to not sleep on a high or luxurious bed. So these are basically the 8 precepts, and you can take them on your own. I mean, ideally the best way to be an Anagarika or to be a Nekama means a renunciate. So you could still be at home, you can have long hair, but you just wear a short white shawl that doesn't go past your knees. And you wear white, like whether it's like a white sarong and a shirt with no embroidery or anything, or white pants and a long white kurta. The Indian style is nice. Whereas if you're an Anagarika man or woman, you can wear the white sarong and a long white shirt and, just the equivalent of a bed sheet touching your ankles. So many people do this when they're thinking about becoming a monk or a nun, but they're not quite ready to enter the monastery. And yeah, there is some controversy like, well, if they're wearing, ideally you do want to be an Anagarika in a monastery, and you know, you can be, you can have you can be an Anagarika, and a lot of monasteries will accept you on the condition that they don't ordain you as a monk or as a novice, or you know, if you're an older person or you have health issues, because some monasteries need Anagarikas to help run the monastery and are happy to offer the opportunity for people to study and practice with them. And, you know, being an Anagarika or a monk or a nun is not the same as going on retreat. An Anagarika has responsibilities in terms of cooking the meal, the daily meal for the community, working in the garden, driving people here and there, maybe helping pay bills, because in a strict forest monastery, monks and nuns don't handle money. And it's all about understanding how to live Dharma in daily life, and you know, how to integrate responsibility and service with your practice, which is something you don't always get when you're in retreat. And you kind of gain an understanding of what monastic life is, how monastics live, what the responsibility of senior monastics is, and in return they explain the vows to you, give you training, and you're kind of living this monastic lifestyle. And from my experience, you know, I initially took the 8 precepts and wore robes, which is Genyin and Rabjung, which is a kind of ordination they give in Tibetan Buddhism for children, and then later on you take novice. And from my point of view, it was very similar to just being the same as a novice, you know. It's just how people regard you. And that training, that lifestyle of simplicity, of not being worldly, once you've got the robes, once you're living that way, once you're not eating dinner, it's very different if you have to go to work, and, you know, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But if you're someone who's semi-retired and, you know, you could work from home, or you have a passive income, it's much easier. It's pretty hard to not eat dinner if you're engaged in a like really draining, energy consuming job. But for those, yeah, who are in the circumstances I mentioned, you know, maybe being an Anagarika is a way you could live a semi-monastic life at home. But ideally you do want to get the training, you do want to have a relationship with a monastic, with a monastery, with a practice group. There's no substitute for a real living sangha and a real relationship with other human beings, because a book won't show you, hey, you've got a massive ego and you need to deal with this. They won't challenge that, you know, or some dead teacher won't challenge you the way a living teacher will challenge you, and show you as a mirror for your own practice, because this is a living tradition, a living community. So just watching videos on the internet and reading books, although that's not a bad introduction, it just doesn't have the same effect. And some maybe senior monastics will be upset with me, and they're like, why are you saying to people that they can be Anagarikas without the proper training and without permission from a community? Because obviously we don't want very unbalanced individuals putting on white robes and then becoming some kind of fake guru, or doing things that bring disrepute to the sangha. And at least if you have people coming to the monastery to take Anagarika vows and or novice vows, you know, they're examined by the community and accepted by the community as a well-balanced individual before they ordain. But the truth is, this phenomena already exists. It's been discussed in Sutta Central with Bhante Sujato, and there are, for various reasons, you know, people with pets and people over 50 and all kinds of people who would like to ordain but can't. And I feel like, you know, from a justice point of view, if you are a sincere, well-balanced person, but a monastery won't accept you just because of their own criteria, there should be an alternative. So please don't go saying, Ayeshe said I could ordain, or this, you know, this is a new thing. This is not a new thing. People have always taken 8 precepts on the full moon. It's quite common in Theravada countries. I'm not making a unilateral decision for all Theravadan senior people because I'm more of a Mahayana forest nun. This is just an option and it's already existing. So I'm just having a conversation about it. And this is also, you know, a conversation for those who are interested in ordaining and want to know like what temporary ordination is like. So because, you know, when I ordained at 23, I really didn't have a context for being a Buddhist nun, what it would be like, how I would make a living, what the daily routine is like, what is expected of me from the community. I had no understanding that when you put on robes, you as an individual disappear and other people have these massive expectations of you to suddenly become a teacher and to know things. And they will tell you things, they will open up to you for things you may not be ready to deal with. And it was a real struggle to find a place to stay that would support me because there are only 3 Tibetan Buddhist monasteries in the world that don't charge monastics to stay, Western monastics to stay. There's a 90% disrobing rate. So I want people to be informed and to go in with a better idea of what ordination is like and to be supported and trained and to understand that it's not okay to ordain people and then just abandon them, you know, with no training and no financial support, to have vows that they can't keep and vows that they have no idea what it really means. And I think, you know, if you're someone who does do temporary ordination, you have a more realistic idea of what monastic life could be like, but you also have a greater appreciation of the need to build fourfold sangha, which is lay women, lay men, nuns and monks, and how, you know, as a busy layperson, it's really hard to preserve the Dharma, that you can make great progress as a layperson in your meditation practice, and you definitely have Buddha nature, but to preserve all the teachings and to keep alive these sacred spaces is a beautiful thing, and is how Buddhism has been preserved for 2,600 years. That Buddhism is not just about individual practice, it's a living community. And people develop through doing this temporary ordination, they also develop more of a respect for the value of what monastics offer to the world, you know, because I've heard people like, you're not economically productive, why don't you get a job? Why don't you go and help sick people? When really the goal of Buddhism is enlightenment. You know, helping sick people is fantastic, but your capacity to help others is limited as long as you have an unenlightened mind. And pursuing enlightenment is not a cop-out. It's not a lazy job. You know, if people come to the monastery, they are not running away. They have no more distractions. They can't open the fridge. They can't call a friend. They can't go and have sex or get drunk or, you know, go and see a movie or do any of the things that normally would help us get some relief from suffering. You're alone on the freeway to enlightenment with no exits, and you have to face yourself. And that is tough. And that is why even in monasteries where people do have support, about 65% of them or more will disrobe, simply because the process of being alone with yourself and dealing with your negative emotions, dealing with your mind is tough. And, you know, renouncing everything, seeking awakening is tough. And the service, like monastics don't just sit alone in a hut. They offer a space of sacred connection and peace and refuge for the lay community, for the world. They preserve, you know, acreages of forest. They consume less resources. They're not contributing to the overpopulation problem. And, you know, it's a job as well as a calling, a vocation. So, Anagarika Karuna, so you've practiced many years as a layperson in quite a committed way, like hours of meditation every day. And what made you want to, sorry, I'm just out of the picture here. What made you want to become a temporary nun or gave you a calling for monastic life?
So I've had a calling come up throughout my life since I was 10. I was raised in a Catholic tradition, and originally there was some very inspirational nuns when I was around that age. And their energy and their presence was peaceful and beautiful, and they were, you know, caring and loving, and it sparked something in me. And then it's come up and, you know, in waves ever since then. But I think ever since I started practicing Buddhism, that it's been quite strong, and it's coming more often. The feeling to, you know, at least give it a go and see what it's like.
So what was the ideal or the basic idea that attracted you to the monastic life, apart from that early childhood impression you have of contemplatives? What were you seeking from monastic life?
Seeking from monastic life, well, two things mainly. To deepen my own practice and to learn more, but then to also be of service to the community and the sangha and beyond as well, you know, relevant to my level of training.
So people would say, why can't you just do that as a lay person? Why do we need monastics these days? It's kind of like, it's not like we're in the potato famine and we're Irish immigrants or something. Like, what is it about being a monastic that is a bit different to the way you were living as a lay person? I'll just turn that a bit.
Well, I think as a layperson you can be of help and of service, but in my experience it's more limited because of the other layperson responsibilities and focuses. You might be trying to work and trying to volunteer in something, and looking after the family and, you know, all those sorts of things. I think the simplicity of, you know, trying to reduce possessions and attachments is very appealing to me. I've been reducing and becoming more and more simplistic in the way I live and what I'm buying or consuming over many years now, and I keep refining that. And I think the idea of even just communal, like a monastery with communal space where resources are shared, is another layer to that, rather than, you know, one person or one family in one big house. And I think also to be with other people practicing is very nourishing and a wonderful opportunity to share and to learn and develop practice, and, you know, to have a senior monastic available for guidance and teachings is amazing too.
Okay. And what, you know, you took temporary ordination for 2 weeks. So how was it? Was it what you expected? What was the experience like? What was the routine, and what did you get out of it? Did the way people look at you and the way you looked at yourself change?
I tried to have as little expectation as possible, but obviously I still had some thoughts and ideas about what it would be like. I've stayed in monasteries before on retreat, and like you were saying, it's not a retreat coming to do this. It's different, and I knew it wasn't a retreat, but I hadn't had the experience of not being, you know, on a retreat or a day of mindfulness prior to coming here. So I think just seeing the day-to-day functioning of the monastery from behind the scenes has given me a greater understanding and awareness of the work involved and the effort involved, and, you know, the basic things, cooking, cleaning, gardening, you know, need to be met as well. So I think I've seen how much you know, have held space for the community in various ways, either through people coming to receive teachings to the monastery, or on the occasions that we've been out, the community coming up to you and to me first, actually. And I'm and just expecting me to kind of be able to guide and you know, guide them. So I referred over to but yeah, it's just it's almost, it's not a 9 to 5, it's like a job, but it's all the time.
Yeah. Which is why having the help of community, the support of community helps, right? Because it can, in robes, it can isolate you from other people. They put you on a pedestal, or otherwise they project resentment. So I guess if you do happen to ordain as an Anagarika, as if you take 8 precepts yourself, it's good to just be honest with people, like, I'm just a beginner and I'm not fully trained, so you might want to go to this monastery or that teacher, or, you know, and not kind of get in over your head, because people have this expectation of anyone in robes. But what having robes does is kind of push you towards, like, make you restrain your behavior because people are watching and you've got a big signboard on you trying to be virtuous, you know. So this guy that came up to you in a cafe, what did he do, and how did that differ from your normal, like if you were in jeans and a t-shirt?
Oh, well, I would assume that he wouldn't have come up to me at all if I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, he came up and he was very polite and asked me if I was a monk. And I said, I told him what I was doing. You know, I'm in training. It's just temporary. And had a little bit of a conversation with him. But then he was asking, you know, he opened up his vulnerabilities to me as well. Even though, you know, he'd been given the context that I was just training, he still, you know, opened his heart to me and talked about some of his struggles and what he's trying to do and the direction he's hoping to go on. And so, you know, it's a privilege to hear someone opening up so honestly, you know, that you've met 2 minutes ago, but also to be able to then to refer him, you know, that the monastery isn't very far from where he lives, and to refer him to speak to you, obviously, not me, in depth. It was nice to be able to sort of you know, give him something tangible that he could follow up on as well. So, and he has, hasn't he? So, yeah.
So what have you got out of your stay as a temporary nun, and what's the routine of that daily?
Okay, so, well, the routine, I'll start with the routine. The routine is, it's kind of a split day. So there's practice and teachings, some work, and then time for personal practice, study, meditation. And I think it's been really wonderful to be able to have the teaching and then, you know, on that day, or something that we've done in a meditation on that day, and then to have that space afterwards to reflect on it, to maybe meditate on it again, take notes, you know, and there's a wonderful reference library, so read some of the books from there as well, and do some study. It's been wonderful to have that chunk of space, rather than, because yes, I do practice at home, but it's segmented, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine, but to have that long period condensed, it does do that mirror towards yourself a bit more, and more things do come up. So more things to practice with, and
so it can intensify your practice.
Yeah, I would say it's been more intense, generally more intense than at home, without any of the distractions. So it's been wonderful and a bit hard, but wonderful.
And so, like a monastery routine normally in most monasteries is like maybe you meet at 7 or 8 in the morning for breakfast, and then you might meditate and do some chanting, and then you'll have a few hours work, and then you'll have lunch, and then you won't eat for the rest of the day except maybe some allowables in the evening. And then you might meet in the evening for a teaching or, chanting again a few times a week. But you have your own hut. This is the way it is in forest monasteries. And the beauty of that is you have the time together as a community, but you also have the personal space. So has this experience of temporary ordination given you more of a insight into what monastic life is like, and does it make you want to pursue that in future?
It has definitely given me more of an insight of what monastic life is like day to day. So I'm really grateful for that. Yes, I am still interested in pursuing. Definitely.
Haven't turned you off.
No, I haven't been turned off.
Yeah.
But I'm more informed now.
Yeah. And you realize there's a certain amount of intensity. It's not just kind of an easier way of life where you're leaving behind your stress and your problems.
Yeah, it can be. I've had some moments of, big intensity, and I haven't left any problems behind.
Damn. Wherever you go, there you are.
I'm practicing with them.
Okay. And so, some people think that giving things up is like a masochistic, miserable, you're being hard on yourself. That we don't need renunciates either because we're transforming our attachments or because it's just not relevant to the world anymore. But I think the thing that a lot of people don't get is that for some of us, simplifying our lives and just focusing on practice and focusing on like altruistic love, building community, serving the community, not just being in a romantic relationship with one person, is a matter of joy. That it's not just about wearing a hair shirt and whipping yourself. It's that actually noble friendship is like a family, and not the same, but that we can be there for each other as brothers and sisters and non-binary siblings, and that it can be freeing, like that. There was a man in the time of the Buddha who ordained temporarily, and he was like a minister who had heaps of responsibilities. And one night he was heard sighing and exclaiming, oh happiness, while sitting under a tree, but sighing a lot. And one of the monks spoke to him the next day and said, are you okay? You were sitting under the tree sighing and exclaiming. And he said, oh yes, I'm very happy because I now no longer have to worry about all the things I usually worry about, the scheming ministers and all my portfolio of responsibilities, and kind of managing all my money and keeping it safe and fear that it's going to be stolen, and all of those things, because I'm living in simplicity. I have nothing left to steal. For many of us, especially women, there are a lot less places to ordain. There's a lot less support depending on the tradition you ordain in, and it's not always easy to find a community you resonate with. So that in itself is not an easy ride. And then there's the inner obstacles that you face. But if you can find the right circumstances, and that is why it can be, simplicity can be a matter of joy. And so that is why monastic life and these places of contemplation in such a fast-paced, stressed out, distracted world, coming into the here and now, and learning how to sit with yourself, learning how to make peace with your own issues, healing yourself, and then allowing that peace and that space, holding space for others, is such a beautiful thing and helps preserve the Dharma. So that is why I'm speaking about, options for those who can't become monastics, or options for those who are interested in monastic life but can't give up all the responsibilities they have immediately, or just want a little taste test before they go further. So do you have anything else you want to say about this experience, or how you view monastics? Do you view them differently now than you did before?
Oh, yes, I do. I mean, I've had it. I've always, as far as I can remember, have had a deep appreciation of monastics. But I think it's deepened even more. Just seeing the energy, emotionally, psychologically, physically, that you provide and hold space for as well. So it's yeah, there's a lot to do, and a lot to maintain, and a lot to offer and share, which I've seen you do. And yeah, I don't know, there's probably not enough hours in the day really. So yeah, I think even though I was already appreciative, my appreciation and respect of, just how not the easy path it is has been raised.
Yeah. So sometimes my brain doesn't always work as quick as I'd like it to. Yeah, so I think, there many beautiful things have been shared, so thank you for that. And it's been a pleasure to have you at the monastery. And I hope this talk has been useful for those of you seeking ordination, or those of you seeking options if a monastery won't accept you. And I think it's also good to point out retreat centers, or lay people's Dharma centers, and monasteries are not the same. And monastics live a bit of a different lifestyle to lay practitioners, even if the lay practitioners are meditating at home all the time, because of the Vinaya and the code of ethics. And the Buddhists, when asked by Ananda, his main disciple, why the teachings of the previous Buddhas disappeared so quickly, he said, because they didn't set down a code of ethics, a code of rules. So ethical conduct is the foundation of preserving the Dharma. And the Buddha said in the suttas that it's like the ship that carries the teachings over the ocean. And like, if we look at Vajrayana cultures that didn't have a strong monastic presence, like the Indonesian Vajrayana cultures that built the Borobudur stupas, Buddhism disappeared very quickly from those places. This is not to say that being a layperson is any less of a valid path. I mean, how your meditation goes isn't just about wearing red, it's about how your karma is, and how you absorb the teachings, and so many things. But to preserve all the practices, we need people who are practicing full-time, who are specialists. And it's not just about you. You can't achieve very much as one individual to preserve the Dharma. The Dharma isn't just about us. It won't survive if we're just practicing alone. We need to build community, and we need the fourfold sangha to preserve the Dharma. And I've had people come to me like, well, this is what I want from a monastery. This is what I expect as a layperson. Do you have a hut where I can do retreat and bring me food, and as if you're like my servants or something? But that's fine. That's what retreat centers do, and that's valuable. Having retreat time is so important. But actually coming together as a fourfold sangha and contributing to community and building something together and working on your own issues as they arise within community is so valuable. And coming to these places, making a donation, doing some, chopping some wood, or making a meal, or whatever, you're investing in Buddhist community. You're investing in the preservation of the Dharma in a living way, in a living legacy. And in a world that is so violent, so distracted, where people are consuming more than the planet can provide, these places of sanctuary and peace where people are trying to live in ethics and compassion and awareness, are an island in the midst of the storm. So for me, living communities, not just where you're just in silence ignoring other people and you're just focusing on your own practice, which is valid, but it's not sustaining the Dharma beyond yourself, which is what we need for Buddhism to survive into the future. Yeah. So that's why I feel like coming and practicing as part of a community is a really important part of a Dharma practice. And maybe offering these opportunities for people to come and ordain temporarily. Although for myself, from my point of view, the amount of energy you put into one Anagarika, you probably, in my mind, I'm thinking more and more that I want people to come and stay long term. That opportunity to temporarily ordain is a wonderful chance for people to understand why we have monastics, what monastic life is, and to maybe see if they have a vocation. And if they don't have a vocation, maybe they'll support the sangha, because there is this kind of crisis, especially for women. Like there is, even within the Tibetan community in India, there is 10 nunneries to every 100 monasteries, meaning women have only a 1 in 10 chance, the same as a monk. A monk has 9 times more places to choose from, 9 times more support. Well, that's maybe an exaggeration, but a lot of options in terms of where he goes, and probably better facilities, access to better teachers. So just, this problem of patriarchy is still there, and the struggle for full ordination for women, and also trans people, non-binary people finding places where their gender identity is affirmed and they can ordain. That's also a challenge. And there's also a challenge, for disabled people to find places where they can ordain and they can have physical access. So these are all issues, that we have to look into and to try to be more inclusive. So thank you for listening, and good luck. And I hope this talk has been in some way beneficial. And thank you, Anagarika Karuna, for your wisdom and for your sharing. And good luck with everything.
Thank you for having me here. It's been very insightful and delightful as well, and wonderful. Thank you.